there at number 4 with the Sacramento Kings and what they decide to do. It still seems that Keegan Murray is the front runner in terms of best fit, in terms of fitting their needs. But there's so much chatter now that Jaden Ivey is the guy at 4, James, and there's so much potential of the Kings taking their pick and moving it down into the draft, possibly with the Indiana Pacers. And that's why I wanted to have you on this show. Are you hearing the same thing? What are you hearing about a potential deal between the Indiana Pacers and the Sacramento Kings?
Yeah, I would say that the Pacers have kept things close to the vest. I would say, as you know, there's been no like really substantial breaking news on what the Pacers are thinking with their pick from me or Woj or Shams. It hasn't been like that. Like I said, I do think that they're weighing their options, and I think just from this is my own personal thing. Again, it's not the Pacers saying this. I just think for me personally, I think that they have to look at potentially moving up and using Malcolm Brogdon to do it. Um, to me, he's that one player who doesn't fit the timeline of this team. You know, you got Halliburton who's 22, you got Chris Duarte who's 25, you got Isaiah Jackson who doesn't turn 21 until next year. Even Myles Turner is 26, and then you have Malcolm Brogdon who's 29 and injury prone. So it's like if you have your point guard of the future, and you're in this again 4 to 6 range where you can get a really good secondary two guard or wing player. Where does that leave Malcolm Brogdon? Do you draft a guy if it's Murray, if it's Ivy, maybe not so Murray because he's like a 3-4, but if it's Ivy, if it's Matherin, if it's one of those guys where they're a true two guard, do you want to draft them and put them behind, a Malcolm Brogdon or take him off the bench behind Malcolm Brogdon and Chris Duarte? I don't think it's worth it. I think if you have that top 5 pick or top 6 pick, you should be willing to draft that guy, play him right away. Again, you probably won't be that good, but at least you're building with that young group and you moved on, like I said, from an older injury-prone Malcolm Brogdon, who, quite frankly, might like another situation because it fits his timeline better. So that's my only thinking behind it and why I think that a potential deal between the Pacers and the Kings isn't off the table. Again, I haven't heard anything specifically. I won't lie to you guys. But I think just anybody with common sense can kind of see where I'm going with this. Like, if you have a young core, why keep the one guy who's going to be 30 in December around for the future? I think if you really want to build it from the ground up, go all in with this rebuild, you have to do it now because, frankly, if you keep him or not, you're not going to be that good anyway next year. So I think you should get younger. Again, not have a really great year again, be right back in the lottery with a chance to, again, get another young asset to continue that build.
So you're saying go OKC route?
Yeah, I really do. I don't think that Pacers fans want to hear that. I don't think that they're used to that. But I think after, this is their first single digit pick in 30 plus years. Even Reggie Miller was the 11th pick. Paul George was the 10th pick. So they never had a top 10 pick. I mean, I won't say never, but they haven't had one in so long. So I think since you've kind of bottomed out for the first time in over 30 plus years, you need to really take your time and do it right instead of trying to make a quick fix and just be like a 10th seed, 9th seed play-in team or a potential, bottom tier playoff team. If you really want to build it up and build a contender, I believe you have to go that long route, especially considering that you're Indiana. You're not going to get a big free agent signing. So might as well try to, again, build it up through the draft, get good young assets. And for everyone freaking out, you can still get a really good player at number 6,
Mm-hmm.
or like I said, move up to number 4, or again, keep number 6, move Malcolm Brogdon and potentially get another top 10 or lottery pick. So there's options out there. I just think that the chances of Malcolm Brogdon being with this team, with this young group, is getting slimmer just because of, again, the timeline of the team.
Yeah, I think there's a growing speculation that it is a Malcolm Brogdon type of deal that would move him to Sacramento and he would be that guy next to Fox as their starting backcourt duo. The only thing that I have questions with that in terms of a lineup is they continue to preach that defense was their main focal point and change. And Malcolm Brogdon, while he is a good defender, I see him more as a point guard defender. And it's the same thing with De'Aaron Fox. Like De'Aaron Fox is, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, De'Aaron Fox isn't that great defensively. So you need to have a guy that plays locked on defense, especially with a lot of these two guards. I'm already off the top of my head. I'm already thinking of Devin Booker out west, and I don't know if Brogdon is one that I can see really being able to even stay in front of him with the size that Booker has, as well as his lateral quickness. So that questions me. A name that has started to recently pop up on this side, right, in Sacramento, is Myles Turner again. And I think after Domantas Sabonis was traded to the Kings, I had you on the show. We made our debut, and I asked you, was that pairing good? And you told me it wasn't very strong. The two of them, they didn't really mesh very well. They were good friends off the court, but on the court, it just seemed like one needed the ball more. Turner obviously wanted to have more of a prominent role on the offense. I
Mhm.
don't think he fully buys into the idea of coming to Sacramento and being like I'm going to just fit right in where I was before type of
Mhm.
mindset. But does a Turner and the six pick intrigue you more, and still being able to hold maybe Brogdon for a trade down the road? Maybe he goes back to a team like, I don't know, Milwaukee, where he was from. Maybe there's something there to acquire like a Pat Connaughton for you guys, a younger character. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Turner in the six and being that the package?
So I will say this just real quick. I think that Malcolm Brogdon is an underrated defender. They did put him on a lot of bigger guards throughout the season. It's just that the sample size, at least from what I saw, was so small because he only played 36 games. But when he was healthy, he was checking, LeBron. He was taking the Westbrooks of the world. He was taking a lot of these bigger wings and doing a pretty decent job. And they got a couple of their, you know, I would say marquee wins, if you can say that for a team that didn't do very well throughout the season, is because he had pretty good perimeter defense. So I would say he's a pretty good perimeter defender. It just depends on, can you rely on him being out on the court. And then to your other point with Myles Turner, for the chaos alone, if he got traded to the Kings, that would burn our Twitter feeds to the ground. Like that would be hilarious from that standpoint. But the reason why I don't think it's likely to happen is because he didn't play with Tyrese Halliburton last year after they acquired him. And I think, there was a report from Mark Stein saying, quote, he might seek to play out the final year of his contract and maybe not sign a contract extension because he's eligible for one now. And obviously he's going into the last year of his contract. So I think that they have to at least roll the dice on playing him with Tyrese Halliburton and seeing how it fits. I think even
Hmm.
for him, he has to, for example, prove that he's the guy. Like he's talked the talk even after being hurt. And his exit interview at the end of the season, he was saying, "I'm going to remind folks, what I do, who I am." He's ready for a bigger role. He basically came out and said he wanted it. Now you have it. And I think that from the Pacers' perspective, they need to at least see how he looks, see how he fits next to whoever they get at number 6 or whatever other moves they might make alongside Halliburton, alongside Chris Duarte, and can he handle a bigger role? And if it comes down to the fit isn't great or Miles is hesitant to sign that extension, then I think you have to move on from him and again get some young assets for potentially next year's draft. So I don't see Myles Turner, getting moved like within the next week on draft night for a pick unless they know for certain he's just not going to re-sign.